All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. This is the informational webinar for the Make It Prize. Very happy to have you here where we can talk all about this exciting prize opportunity and how you can get involved. My name is Lance Hawley. I'm with the National Renewable Energy Lab. I have with me Emmanuel Pecora and Becca Simkwitz, both from the Department of Energy. Thank you all for being here to join us. This prize is developed by OTT. You can see in the upper left here, the Office of Technology Transitions. So thank you, Becca, for being here from OTT. It was developed in partnership with OSED, the Office of Clean Energy Demonstration. Thank you, Emmanuel, for joining there, as well as EERE, the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. All of these Department of Energy offices have come together, put together this prize. That is run by us here at NREL through the American Made program. So again, thanks everyone for joining. We're excited to have you here. Let's get into this prize. We have a few housekeeping items for you. As you saw on the first slide, this webinar covers just the facilities track of this prize. We're going to get into the two different tracks and their differences, but just know that this is the facilities track specific. And if you would like to join the strategies track, which is this prize's other track, we have an informational webinar on that track that is in 2 days from now on August 17th at this same time. The sign up for that webinar is going to be going into the chat. Feel free to join that one as well. So just a note that this is the facilities track. Note that all your microphones and cameras are disabled. This webinar is being recorded. We're going to make it available through the HeroX platform. It will be a YouTube link so that you can come back and see it, or you can pass it along to anyone who maybe couldn't join. If you have questions, feel free to submit them at any time in the Q&A box that you'll see on your screen for Zoom. We're going to compile answers as well and make sure that those are posted after this webinar so that anyone can see those responses. And if you do have any tech issues, always check your audio settings. And if there's any big problems, like we said earlier, this is being recorded, so you can come back to certain sections at a later time. Here's our agenda for this informational session. I'm going to do a quick overview of the American Made program to put this prize in context. Then I'm going to hand it over to the Department of Energy team, where they're going to look at Make It Prize from a high-level overview and then get into some specifics about the background information and how this prize came to be. Then we're going to focus on prize eligibility, who can compete. We're going to look at a timeline and see different points of entry to get involved and when your deadlines are. We're going to look at submission requirements, which is what is entailed when you put together a submission, what are the different parts and what do you need to make sure that you have. Then we're going to look at how those parts are assessed so that you know how submissions are scored. And then at the end, we're going to do a little overview of where you actually go to compete in this prize, what the platform looks like, and what support and resources are available for you. That's an overview of what we'll be covering here. So let's dive in. I'd like to first put this prize in context by sharing a little about the American Made program. American Made is a U.S. Department of Energy program. And as you see here, it's meant to supercharge a revolution of bold ideas. The goal here with American Made is to fast track ideas for the clean energy revolution. We have given out $200 million in cash prizes and support over the last 5 years through the American Made program. And that's over the course of 55 and counting prize opportunities. And it is included a network of 400 and counting network members. This is a really cool initiative from the Department of Energy that focuses on prize opportunities for innovators, entrepreneurs, and people with ideas for the clean energy revolution. And we're really excited to have Make It be a prize opportunity through this American Made network. So that just helps put this prize in a little bit of context, that there are lots of different prize opportunities and lots of different competitors involved in the American Made system. And we're happy to have you join that system. Next, we're going to talk about Make It at a high level. I'm going to turn it over to Becca to talk about the big picture goals. Go ahead, Becca.
Thank you, Lance. So as you mentioned, I'm Becca Simkowitz, and I'm a commercialization program manager at DOE's Office of Technology Transitions, or OTT. So the Manufacture of Advanced Key Energy Infrastructure Technologies, or MAKE IT prize, aims to catalyze domestic manufacturing to enable replication and commercial liftoff of clean energy demonstration projects, and MAKE IT takes two approaches towards this goal of aiming to move manufacturing facilities of critical clean energy technology components from planning to the point of being shovel ready, and through enabling communities to develop strategies for manufacturing activity in their area. There's approximately $30 million in prizes over two different competitive tracks. That is the facilities track and the strategies track. Each has a different potential audience, timeline, prize amounts, and structure. And I will now turn it over to my colleague, Emmanuel Pecora at the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations to provide a little bit more background on the facilities track, which is the focus of today's webinar.
Thank you, Becca. Hello, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Pecora. I'm with the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, working the Strategy and Program Development Office. As Lance and Becca already said, this prize is made of two different tracks. And when I mean different, I mean very different tracks in terms of audience and goals and objectives. Today, we focus on the facilities track. The goal of this facilities track is to incentivize work to move manufacturing facilities from planning to shovel ready. DOE, the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, the Office of Technology Transitions, but honestly, a lot of other offices within the agency are really catalyzing a lot of activity to build a new clean energy infrastructure industry. And we realize that all these new technologies, all these energy infrastructure facilities will need components, and we want these components to be manufactured in the United States, manufactured domestically. So we came up with a list of eligible components that we believe are critical for the immediate needs of the clean energy industry. And this prize is meant to accelerate establishing manufacturing facilities for those components. You guys can compete and receive up to $5 million in cash prizes if you can show that you are shovel ready. And we'll go through this webinar what it means to prove to be shovel ready. I want to highlight that right now we are not focused only on new facilities. Actually, there's a specific focus on revitalization of shuttered facilities, brownfield development, or repurposing existing facilities. So it's really open to either new construction, but also repurposing existing facilities, as long as it's for manufacturing one of the eligible components that we'll discuss today. If we go to the next slide, we're going to provide a little bit of background on who we are and why we are doing this prize before diving into the details of what it means to apply and what we are asking you guys to do. So real quick, there are two offices involved, actually three offices. We're focusing on OTT and OSED. I will start from OSED. I'm part of this office. Our mission is to deliver clean energy technology demonstration projects at scale in partnership with the private sector to accelerate deployment, market adoption, and equitable transition to our decarbonized energy system. I read the mission statement because every word has specific meaning, and we really want to work with you guys, with the private sector, to accelerate this transition to clean energy. Becca, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Emmanuel. MAKE IT's being developed by OTT in partnership with OSED and EERE, or the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. So the mission of the Office of Technology Transitions is to expand the impact of the Department of Energy's investments. So we work across the Department of Energy with its sites and laboratories and with industry to promote uptake of clean energy technologies. Next slide, please. So OTT is charged with leading commercialization-related policy and programs within DOE, and this includes the Technology Commercialization Fund, or TCF. TCF was established through the Energy Policy Act of 2005 and reauthorized in the Energy Act of 2020, and it establishes that 0.9% of DOE's research, development, demonstration, and commercial application funding should go toward promoting promising energy technologies for commercial purposes. And the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure law in November of 2021 provided $62 billion in new funding to support an array of clean energy activities and programs. And as with base appropriations, 0.9% of the research, development, demonstration, and commercial application funding provided by bill is allocated to TCF to promote promising energy technologies for commercial purposes. Okay. So with this bipartisan infrastructure law, TCF, we're hoping to pursue activities that broadly support the commercialization of promising energy technologies, while also simultaneously working to support infrastructure, competitive opportunity, equity, and addressing the climate crisis across the country. So we work collaboratively across the department to develop programs that can help cultivate a broader network of innovation around bill provision activities that can help enable faster scaling and replication of these projects and promote broader private sector uptake. And I think with that, I will hand it back to Lance. Or no, excuse me, I'll hand it back to Emmanuel.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Becca. So as I mentioned before, not every technology will be eligible for this prize. We understand that this might be disappointing for some of you guys, but at this point, we are really focusing only on a specific list of technology components. I strongly invite you all to read the prize document. If you go to page 34, which is the Appendix B, you have the complete list of technologies that are eligible for this prize. In general, the three big categories are manufacturing and recycling of components for production, processing, delivery, storage, and end use of clean hydrogen. Manufacturing of components related to electric grid upgrades and long duration energy storage. Long duration in the DOE definition means more than 10 hours, and manufacturing of components related to carbon capture and storage, including solvent, sorbents, and membrane recovery. So once again, if you are like gonna get distracted, the two main messages that I want you all to remember is that not every technology is eligible for this prize. If you submit an application for a technology which is not part of this list, it will be deemed not eligible and will not be reviewed. So it has to be for one of these technologies. And second, these are technologies we want to manufacture. We want you guys to move a project to be shovel ready to build a manufacturing facility. That means that this technology has to be at a certain technology readiness level and ready to be manufactured at scale. If it's too early stage, it will not be a successful application because it's very unlikely. If you still need to do some research, development, demonstration, it's very unlikely you're going to be able to start manufacturing at scale the day after you win the prize, which is what we want. Having said that, I guess back to Andrew, team, and Lance for additional details.
Great. Thank you, Emmanuel, and thank you, Becca, for giving some background to the prize. I want to build on what they said by just referencing exactly where you can go to read all about this prize. This is our official rules document. There's a link here on the page, and yes, these slides are made available afterwards so that you can access these links. We're going to use HeroX as our primary platform to compete on this prize, and I'm going to show you a little more of that later. But this image shows where exactly you can go on HeroX in our resources section to find the rules. As both Emmanuel and Becca said, there are very specific descriptions in this rules document, not only about eligible technologies, but also about general eligibility and submission requirements and timelines. So we encourage everyone to read it as thoroughly as you can to understand as much as possible about this opportunity. Having said that, we would like to touch on some of the main aspects here, starting with eligibility. So this prize is open to private entities, non-federal government entities, and individuals. And everyone is US based and US citizen in terms of your team composition. These are American manufacturing endeavors. Note that there's one submission per technology component. So teams could have multiple submissions, but they would need to cover separate technology components per the lists in the rules. We say here that you can submit as an individual, and that's certainly true at the beginning. Once you're established and have a partnership for building a facility, you would need to designate a formal entity once you are in phase one, the scoping phase. And again, for more full descriptions and overviews of eligibility details, see those official rules. This shows an overview, high-level view here of the structure of the facilities track and the different sections or phases of competition. At the very beginning, we're asking competitors to provide a statement of intent, which is what determines your eligibility to compete. Anyone who has a successful statement of intent then gets moved into phase one, called scope. And at the end of phase one, there will be approximately 12 winners at $500,000 each. So to be clear, the end of phase one is the first point where a competitor can receive a cash prize. Of phase one winners, those individual entities will be moved on to phase two, called shovel ready. And throughout the phase two, there will be up to 4 final winners at $4.5 million each, which means if you make it through the entire range of this prize, that would add up to a prize package of $5 million total, 500,000 in phase one and 4.5 million in phase two. That's a high level overview and just making it clear that you must advance through each stage or each phase here in order to be eligible for the next one. I'd like to take some time and focus on the timeline for this prize at a more detailed level. And the first thing everyone will probably notice is that there are 2 timelines, one called primary and one called secondary, that eventually merge into one. There's a few things to cover here. Of particular note is that there are 2 timelines in order to give competitors multiple opportunities to get involved. We realize that this is a very large project that may involve several partnerships and may involve certain delays or things that might be outside of competitors' hands. So we want to make sure that folks have multiple opportunities to get involved. If you look at the primary timeline, you can submit your statement of intent starting right now through mid-October. Then all of those statement of intents will be evaluated and assessed and notify anyone who is eligible to continue into phase one. Notice that phase one begins about a month or so after that. Phase one begins and goes until February. But if you look down at that secondary timeline, there's more opportunities to submit a statement of intent if you aren't able to make the deadline in the primary timeline. In other words, you would have more opportunities, in fact, going all the way to February of 2024. Same process where statement of intents are evaluated and anyone acceptable is moved on into phase one. So you can see that the secondary timeline, phase one, extends a bit further to give folks time to complete it. Now, I want to pause and make sure that this part is very clear. It is better to be involved sooner than later if you can, because those approximately 12 phase one cash prizes are given out to the strongest teams, the strongest applications as they come in, which means there's a chance that all prize awards are given out for phase one in the primary timeline. There's a chance. Now that might not happen, which means there could be some prize money available for phase one in the secondary timeline, but it's not necessarily a guarantee. So we want everyone to know that sooner is better, but there are opportunities to compete if you aren't able to make the primary timeline deadlines. As we move into phase two, you can see that there's multiple points of entry as well. It's a little bit earlier on the primary timeline and a little bit later on the secondary timeline, but then those other dots represent different submission deadlines where anyone who is in phase two is able to submit their materials and be evaluated for a prize award. Same thing as phase one, those prize awards will be given out to the strongest competitors, and so earlier is always better to ensure that there is prize money available there. You can jump between timelines. For example, if you submitted your statement of intent in the primary timeline, but there were some delays or other things going on with your team or maybe your partnerships that caused a delay to complete your phase one submission, that's okay. You could submit in the secondary timeline, and then you could jump back up to the primary timeline, for example, for one of the first submission deadlines for phase two. That's just one example of how it is possible to go between them. The big takeaway message here is earlier is better if it is possible for you and your team. We're going to come back to this timeline a couple times as we go through the phases to help make sure everyone is clear on it. But for now, let's take a look at the most pressing deadlines. If you are in the primary timeline, then your first statement of intent deadline is October 18th, which is just about 2 months from today. So make sure you've got that deadline in mind. If your statement of intent passes and you move into phase one scope, that first deadline would be February 1st of 2024. And if you're involved in the secondary timeline, because again, maybe there are some delays or other issues going on that require more time, the statement of intent deadline for the secondary timeline is February 1st, 2024. And then if you're involved in that phase one scope, it would be May 2nd for that first deadline. This timeline is available on the rules document and on the HeroX page. So feel free to take a look there and post some follow-up questions if you have them. Let's now move into the specifics of each submission here, starting with the statement of intent. This is the first item that anyone interested in competing will submit. As you can see here, and in more detail in the rules document, you will submit a narrative of no more than 2 pages that has some basic information about your project, your team, your technology component, description of your facility or your status, any key project members, and your geographic information. You'll also provide a summary slide, which serves as sort of a easy way to view all of the key details of your project. The overall goal here is to demonstrate that you are interested in developing a domestic manufacturing facility for an eligible technology component. So that would be your statement of intent. And again, that primary timeline deadline is October 18th. Once you complete your statement of intent, approximately 30 days afterwards, after the deadline passes, we will let people know if it has passed. And this is how it's assessed. All submissions will be screened for completion, assessed for eligibility per the rules, and any submissions for a technology component that are not included on the list of components in the rules, as Emmanuel mentioned, would be deemed not eligible to compete. So again, make sure you're taking a look at those rules and assessing your own projects to make sure that they are what the prize is looking for. After statement of intents are assessed and competitors are notified, any eligible competitors would be moved on to phase one, which is scope. Let's come back to the timeline here and highlight the 2 places that you can be involved here. As I went into detail on earlier, there's 2 ways that you can be involved here. Earlier is better, but if there are delays or other things going on that require you to compete in the secondary timeline, that's fine. Just do remember that there's the possibility that there are a high level of very high quality submissions in the primary timeline that would be worthy of the prize awards, which might result in no prize awards available in the secondary timeline. That might not end up being the case, of course, but this gives you two different opportunities to get involved in phase one. In terms of the submission for phase one, which is again is called your scope submission here. The submission package is more robust in that you will need a few different items. In this case, you'll have a cover page, a summary slide, which is made public, and the narrative document, which is going to ask a series of questions. You'll also have permitting and environmental plan, a working financial model and identification of resources, a community benefits plan, and supporting documentation. So the phase one submission will include more items here. The overall goal is to demonstrate that you have a credible plan to establish a manufacturing facility. And again, in phase one, there will be approximately 12 submissions selected as winners at $500,000 each that would then move into phase two. So we highly encourage everyone to use the rules document to see exactly what these items entail and exactly how they are going to be scored to give yourself the best chance at putting together a competitive package. There are a few templates available for you. We have some items to help support your submissions, and you can find these on HeroX. I'll give you an example here in a little bit, but we have a template that helps guide your narrative so that you're following exactly what is asked for by the prize rules. We also have a permitting table, and we highly encourage that you use both of these templates, but especially the permitting table, to make sure you're hitting all of the required elements and not missing anything as it relates to the permitting of your facility. So your submission passed the statement of intent and you're selected as one of the winners of phase one. That would make you eligible for phase two, which is called shovel ready. This is the high level view that you can see here. You need to demonstrate you are shovel ready for the construction or repurposing of a manufacturing facility, including control of a site, permits obtained, financing secured, and proof of meaningful local community engagement. Reminder that the final cash awards for phase two are $4.5 million to each of 4 winners for phase two. Let's take a look at the timeline again. The section highlighted in red here are the different opportunities to submit your materials for phase two. And again, competitors can jump in timelines. And so there are multiple opportunities here to accommodate different timelines or situations for the teams. Notice that that first deadline there is about August or late July of 2024. The next one coming at the beginning of November. And then we have 2 submission deadlines in 2025. Just like phase one, want to make sure everyone is clear. The prize awards, the cash awards, are given to the strongest teams as those submissions come in. So we highly encourage you to complete a high quality package as early as possible, because there is certainly a situation where the winners have been chosen before those final deadlines occur. So make sure that you are taking that into account as you put together your materials. In terms of the phase two submission, these are all the different items that are involved. And since this is getting your facility to the point where it is ready to be built after the prize is concluded, there are a number of things that you need to have here. This is a full list here. And the overall goal is that you need to demonstrate you are shovel ready for constructing or repurposing a manufacturing facility. All of these items have further explanations in the rules. Again, we encourage you to make sure that you have looked at those because there are specifics for each one that are very important to have to be a very strong competitive submission. For both phase two and for the phase one submission, the assessment is based on 4 categories here that involve your manufacturing readiness, your market viability, your project plan, your projected impact, your team capabilities and experience, as well as your community benefits. These are all outlined in the rules, including specific bullet points for each category, so that you can set up your submission to address exactly what is being asked for each of these categories. This is just to give you a high-level view of what exactly plans are being assessed on. Again, if you do have questions, make sure you're putting those in the Q&A. We're going to address them at the end of this session as well as post them online afterwards. I'm now going to move on to where to apply. So you're interested in getting involved. You want to know how you can complete a submission. We use a platform called HeroX, and this is going to be the main competitor platform, not only for applying, but also to have access to resources and support and even ask questions and team up with other folks. So how to register and compete there, the link here is on the page for the facilities track of the Make It Prize. We can also put that link in the chat. You're going to see a page like you see on the left there with a big button that says solve this challenge, or your page might say begin entry. It depends on your HeroX account status. You'll need to either sign in with that or create a new HeroX account, agree to terms of use, confirm your email, and then accept the challenge specific agreement. Once you've done that, you've registered and you're able to follow this prize and eventually submit your statement of intent before the deadline. We encourage anyone on this webinar to go to that site right now, follow the prize. Doesn't mean you have to submit your entry right now, but if you follow the prize, you're able to get updates regularly and access to anything new that is posted on the site. For example, this is the overall HeroX view of the facilities track for the Make It Prize. In addition to that Solve This Challenge button, you'll have a number of tabs, and I want to call attention that each of these are very important to know what's involved so that you have full information about the prize. The summary page is the high-level overview of the rules, the goals, the timelines, the prize amounts. So that's a good place to point people where you might want to give them a quick view of this, maybe potential partners or other people involved in your project. The timeline here is a very detailed view of exact due dates down to the time. And this is very important because once a submission deadline passes to the second, it is not available to submit your portion for that phase that we are in. So make sure that you're following along with that timeline. Also keeping in mind there's the primary and secondary timeline. The updates tab is an important place to go for any new information that the prize team is going to provide to you. This could be reminders about resources. This could be links to other available opportunities for you. This could be reminders about deadlines. And this could even be examples of types of technology components or facilities that the prize is looking for. The next section is called the forum. This is a great place to ask any questions. The prize team is constantly monitoring this forum, so we'll be able to get back to you with any answers. And the forum is also a place that you could make some teaming arrangements. If you are interested in this prize, but you need different partners or support from other folks who might be interested as well, this is a place where you could potentially team up and create a strong submission because you've got multiple partners involved here. The teams tab lets you see teams that are involved. And again, that's a place where you can go to get other folks involved with your team. The resources tab is where the rules are located, as well as any submission templates, as well as contact information for competitor support, permitting tables, any materials like that that we would like competitors to have access to. And lastly is the FAQ, which is a series of commonly asked questions. And this is everything from technical help with the submission to the American Made program to specifics about eligible technologies. So make sure you check that one out for frequently asked questions. That covers the HeroX platform. That's going to be your main hub. That's going to be your home base for competing in this prize. The last section that we would like to go through today is about how you can get connected to support and to resources. The American Made program has a network made up of connectors, and a few of them we call power connectors, where they are subcontracted to provide free support and equal support to any competitors involved in this competition. For this prize, we have the Clean Energy Business Network, or CEBN, and we have Yet To. I want to give a thank you to both of these organizations for being involved with this prize. You are able to contact these two organizations. You can ask questions. You can sign up for office hours. I've got some links on the page here. Again, we'll send these slides out afterwards. We might be able to put in the chat as well how to contact these organizations. Their contact information is up on HeroX as well. You can schedule time to run through your application materials and gather feedback and ask questions in general. So these are a great resource to go to. We highly encourage everyone to take advantage of the services that they provide to all competitors. Another aspect of support is the strategies track of this prize. We mentioned this at the beginning of the prize. Make It is both the facilities track, developing the critical clean energy components, manufacturing facilities, and then the strategies track, which is involved with getting communities linked up with these manufacturing facilities projects. The link to the webinar for the strategies track is going in the chat and was earlier. Please sign up if you'd like to learn more about that one. But where you can have some very cool cross connections here is, as the prize goes on, you can use the strategies track to seek out competitors who are working there with communities to prepare their communities for these types of manufacturing projects. And you can link up and maybe even combine forces as part of your overall submission package. So we encourage you to keep tabs on both tracks of this prize for that reason, that you can be connecting and making your submissions stronger. With that, we have the next steps for you here. So if this is a prize opportunity that excites you, start talking with potential team members or community partners or local organizations. Make sure you read the rules, make sure you plan your participation, get other team members to become familiar with the rules as well. Leverage any support resources like the Power Connectors, CEBN, and Yet2. Go ahead and register your team on HeroX. Make sure everyone has an account and is able to follow the prize. You can register your team, set a team captain, and then compete by submitting your statement of intent by October 18th. Which would be your best chance in the primary timeline. Just a reminder, if that feels like it's coming up too soon, there's the secondary timeline. We do encourage the primary timeline, but there are opportunities in the secondary timeline there. So these are your immediate next steps. You now have a full overview of the prize and the resources available to you. So at this point, we would love to make sure that folks' questions are answered. We also have a inbox where you can email questions to, called makeitprize@nrel.gov. So with that, we're going to take a look at the Q&A and get folks' questions answered. I'll note that one question is, or a variety of questions is that have come around specific technology eligibility and specific technologies making part of the statement of intent, whether they're eligible or not. We will not be answering individual eligibility questions during this webinar, specific ones. Please refer to the full list and descriptions in the rules to see if your technology is eligible. You can also reach out to the Power Connectors that we mentioned, CEBN and Yet2, to discuss your technology in more detail. We also have a general question about being able to switch timelines. And the answer is yes, you are able to jump between timelines. If that makes sense for your particular project, you are able to start in one timeline and move to another. You are not locked in to one specific timeline. We had another general question about, am I able to work with a community that is already participating in the strategies track? And the answer is yes. You are able to coordinate with a community being involved in that track. You're able to join forces if that makes sense for your particular situation. So definitely keep an eye on the strategies track. So we're looking at the Q&A here. Let's see. Is it accurate to say that awards will be rolling during the defined award review notice period, such that money could be running out even while submissions are still coming in? So once a deadline passes, so for example, once a phase 1 scope deadline passes, all of the submissions from that particular deadline will be evaluated. And yes, to answer this question, if there are sufficient high quality, strong submissions from that first phase 1, then yes, those could potentially all be awarded, and that would use the phase one award money. And that's why the deadlines are aligned, so the competitors would know what the situation is. For example, if you were looking at timeline number 2, you would know that phase one is concluded and all the money has been awarded in that first timeline. This one says, is it something like 120 meritorious submissions by 10% means 12 phase one winners, or as long as there are at least 12 meritorious submissions, there will be 12 phase one winners. Winners are not established as a percentage of submissions, only submissions that satisfy the requirements, and PPF will win whatever that number ends up being. How much flexibility is there on specific location of the facility if plans change? Does the application need to be location specific if 2 different states are in the running for strategic reasons? Phase one allows for submission of multiple possible locations. For phase 2, we want the final location being locked in. If an organization wants to submit multiple entries for different technologies, do we need to create multiple HeroX accounts? You can use the same HeroX account as a team captain, and you can have multiple different submissions. But again, as we mentioned earlier, you would need to clearly describe and define how those technology components are different, are separate there. But you can do it with the same HeroX account. What is the expected template or contents of the statement of intent? Again, we encourage you to go to the rules document, which has an overview of what exactly is involved in that submission and what is being assessed there. Sure. We have one that says, if we are not successful in the primary timeline, would we be able to resubmit in the secondary timeline? And the answer is yes, as long as there are still prize funds available, you are able to take feedback and resubmit in the secondary timeline, as long as you're following those deadlines. We had another question about the strategies track following the same timeline as the facilities track. The strategies track has its own timeline. That has a HeroX page. It has its own rules document. And again, we're going to have a webinar on the strategies track this coming Thursday, the 17th, where you can see more about that specific timeline. We have a question about what can we spend phase 2 money on? Building specialized test and manufacturing equipment, etc. This is a prize competition, so prize money is awarded for work completed, and it is not like a grant where there are certain spending requirements that you have to report on. So you are able to use the money in a way that works best for your project. Emmanuel and Becca, are there any other specific questions or clarifications that you would like to give to any of these or other points?
I think you covered at least all the questions I've seen. We understand there's a lot of questions asking us about eligibility of technologies. As Lance already said it very clearly, we're not going to make the determination during the webinar. Please read the prize rules. I think it's page 34, I think, of the it's appendix B. There's 4 or 5 pages with a list of technology components that we're looking for, and a few details. If you feel you fall into one of those categories, please submit a statement of intent and we'll make a determination at that time. Let's see if I can find other questions here. I can go here. Does having marketing announcements on expansion plans lower chances for getting the prize? I would say no, as long as you submit all the documents that we're asking and your submission is satisfactory. That's what counts. There's a question. Can you please take us through the list of eligible components? I mean, we could do that. It would be pretty boring to read a document out loud. I don't know, Lance, we could do that, but it's really like 4 pages, I think, or 5 pages in the prize rules. Is not too long, and we organize them, we group them by technology vertical. So I would encourage you guys to read prize documents. Lance,
I agree. That's the Appendix B. I believe we said that's page 34 of the rules. And like Manuel said, that's nicely laid out by specifics. We know that a lot of people have very specific technology categories. So that's the best place to answer your question there.
Maybe the other question for you or for the annual team: once awarded, when is money distributed to winner and on what basis?
Yes.
Do you want to go to the payment?
Yes. So if a submission is selected as a prize award winner, once those winners are announced and made public, then we are contacting each winner and giving them congratulations, as well as specific instructions for what to return to us for payment. There are a few documents that you will need to provide, such as a W-2 W-9 banking information, so that we can get those payments out to you. Once we receive those documents back from you, then we're able to process the payment on our end. And assuming there's no delays that might come from any inaccurate information or anything like that, the process usually takes anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks from receiving those documents. And I should also note that the payment goes to the person that you're designating as part of your submission. And so make sure that you are checking those specifics to make sure that you want to have that money go where you intend it to go.
There's another question. When we say brownfield sites, are we trying to find brownfield sites that were used in other energy industry applications, or any brownfield site? I would say any brownfield, repurposing shuttle facilities that were used for industrial manufacturing for any industry, that would be fine. I'm going through the list. I think there was a question, is there an expected template contents for the statement of intent? The answer is yes. In the prize rules, I think we went through also through the webinar. It's pretty easy. It's not too difficult. I think it's one or two page of submission, just some basic information and which technology component you are planning to manufacture. Thank you, Lance. I think you're going back the deck.
Yeah, I could go back and show those exact ones, but this is the place to go to in HeroX, the resources tab, which has those template documents ready for you. Manuel, there's a question: is the focus on U.S. manufacturing for supply to the U.S., or are exporters also welcome?
We focus on domestic manufacturing. If your customers are abroad, that is fine. It is okay to sell to anyone, but we want the manufacturing activity to happen in the US.
Thank you. We do still have some time, so if folks still have questions, feel free to put them in the chat there. We also just want to make sure that we are thanking you for your attendance today. This is a recorded webinar. We are going to be posting the recording as well as the slide deck for you to access. Those will be posted on HeroX in the resources section. And we'll make sure that that's also an update so that you get pinged about it if you are following the prize, which make sure that you do that as well. The strategies track webinar is this Thursday, August 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. If you would like to sign up for that, make sure that you do register just the same way that you registered for this one. Also, if you think of a community or a partner that you think would benefit from knowing about this opportunity, feel free to send it to them as well. There is a separate HeroX page for the strategies track, and it's easy to go between the two of them. You can find those links right in the main summary of each track.
And Lance, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to go through all questions, even if we missed any question, we'll provide an answer in HeroX.
Yes, we'll compile all of the questions from today's webinar, and we'll post a comprehensive anonymous list of questions and answers that will go in HeroX. Otherwise, thank you everyone for joining today. We're very excited for this prize opportunity, and we're very excited to get you involved. We do have the email inbox if you have further questions, and hope to see some of you as well on the Thursday webinar for the strategies track. Thank you to the Department of Energy team for joining us as well today, and good luck to everyone's participation. Thank you.